And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that celebrates every single day the amazing people who make this such a great place to live, work, and play. You know, we're so lucky to live in coastal Mississippi. And for 2 years, actually 2 years today, we've been celebrating the people who make this place such a special place to live, work, and play. And I'm so thrilled to be here. It's been a great journey over the last couple of years. Let me ask my partner in crime, Cal Curley, the producer of Coast Vue, to join me for a second, and we're just going to reflect for just a second. Cal, congratulations, man, on hanging in there with me for 2 years, my friend.
It's always fun to make an annual anniversary. That means we're still employed.
I tell you what, it's not just that, buddy. You know, we've done a good job of growing the audience of this show and trying to keep it relevant. We're staying relevant. And I said from the beginning that as long as the show's relevant and making a difference, that we're going to hang in there. But we've got great support from the owner of SuperTalk, Steve Davenport, and the president, Kim Dillon, and the market general manager, Kenny Vest, and the team that you're surrounded by. Well, you know, Cammie Martin has been terrific in helping us with the content on this show. You've been a great producer, but it's taken a team effort. And, you know, here we are 2 years into it, and I think the enthusiasm level from the team of people who are responsible for bringing this to our audience every single day is as high today as it was when we started. And I appreciate your contribution to that.
Oh, you bet. It's my pleasure. It's been a wonderful experience for me, not only from a learning aspect, but just a growing aspect in general. You know, I think I'd mentioned this before, you know, before the show, I really just kind of went along with whatever was happening on the coast and didn't really pay a whole lot of attention. But now I'm paying more attention to things that's going on around me and stuff that I should have been paying attention to before. It just how everything mingles together and how it affects the way things are day to day. And with this show, it's almost getting a bird's eye view of things before actually a lot of other people hear about it.
Well, you know what's interesting, Kyle? I think, and I knew this as a publisher of newspapers for so much of my career, is that people are busy. You know, people are busy. It's hard to keep up with the news. I think in the day of social media that, you know, our news feeds are full of so much junk. And I think what happens is that, you know, certainly people are focused on those things, but people sort of begin to reject all these inputs of information. And it's easier to just sort of focus on the things that, you know, this is, you know, the average person's focused on just trying to get through the day, you know, wanting to get home, find enjoyment, finding their happiness and their hope in life. And it's easy to forget about what it takes to make a community like ours tick. It's easy to forget about the kind of leadership that it takes to make a community like ours tick. And this show has been a great reminder. I remember the conversation you said you were having with your wife, and she brought something up, and you immediately answered it. You know, it's cool for you probably to have a better feel for what's happening here.
It is, because I'm not always the smartest person in the room.
Well, hey, so, you know, Kyle, but you know what? You're so darn modest, because the reality is you're one of the smarter guys I know. I mean, you think about what you do at this station with the information technology and the operations and all the work that you do, you know, across multiple platforms. You do the music in Superdomes during Saints games. Man, I referred to you literally in the first show with Haley Barber. I referred to you as a jack of all trades, and here we are 2 years later, and I still refer to you that way. You're also awfully modest.
Yeah, I kind of am. I've always been that way, and I just never like to put myself up on that pedestal or whatever. I've never been the bravado person like, oh, I can do that. More than likely I can. I'm just not going to tell you I can unless I really have to.
You know what I find, Cal, and that's a characteristic of a lot of the leaders we talk to. We're bringing people to this show that maybe some people have never heard of before. In fact, a lot of them, you know, most people haven't heard from before because they've just done their work quietly behind the scenes. They don't want a lot of attention. They just do what they do. They work hard in their careers. They're trying to make the most of their personal situations, trying to improve themselves personally, but they're also committed to the community simultaneously. They're wanting to give back to the community. And the people who come on the show are really, really focused on that. And what you and I get this opportunity to do with Cammie's help is to shed the light on them so that we can see how all of their stories start to come together in this amazing, like, I don't know, I call them the 1,000 points of light. You know that all the time. But when you bring all these lights together, it helps us realize that here in coastal Mississippi, we are full of incredibly competent, focused, passionate leaders who want the best for coastal Mississippi, and they are each a point of light, and they've made a real big difference. And it's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to kind of facilitate bringing their stories to the forefront. And I've learned with you, man. I mean, I've said this before, the more we learn, the more we better learn how much we don't know, that life's a journey of discovery. And that's certainly been the case for me, man. I've learned just right there along with you.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed every step of the way. The learning, the meeting new people, every bit of it has been a fantastic ride so far, and I'm looking forward to many more years to come.
One not final thought, but one last thought related to this part of this conversation. Looking back 2 years, we posted on the SuperTalk Gulf Coast 103.1 Facebook page, and then I put it on the Coast Vue page as well. The very first conversation we had with Haley Barber, and I thought when I pulled it up, I thought this is going to be sort of a high cringe factor for me looking back at the first show. But I didn't feel that way at all, actually. I was impressed with how you and I had a kind of good handle on what we wanted to do with the show from the very beginning. And, I mean, if the way the pieces fit together, the intro music and all of the stuff that we did, it has kind of stood the test of time, really. And you look at that back at the first conversation with Haley Barber, and what a great recollection it was, not only of his career, but his influence here in coastal Mississippi. A reminder of how here we are, 15% of the population for the total state, but economically we're an engine that drives the rest of the state. I thought it was a great way to kick off that week. But we did hit the ground running, didn't we?
We sure did. And, for me, there's a little cringe factor just on the production value overall, but we've come a long way since then. And like you said, though, we kind of knew where we wanted to go with it. And I eventually got my part, the production side part, to where I think it should be, and got a few ideas for moving forward too. So
we had a lot to deal with, man. We were doing the shows live. We're doing pre-recording now because we're using our ability to do these shows remotely, and we're recording them about 24 hours ahead of time. But we're using new technology to help us, and the pandemic really has changed things. And I think the pandemic has contributed to helping make this show better in a lot of ways. But man, go back and look. We were doing Facebook and YouTube live. We were, had the camera in the studio, and we were rolling with live radio right out the bat. And, if you look back, man, we really didn't have any big blinks during that time. You know what my biggest concern was? Walking to the front door 15 minutes out from a live show and still waiting for the guest to get there, because, man, I'm not a radio guy. The thought that a guest didn't show up and we had a live show to do, I was going to put you on the spot and make you do a lot of talking.
Yeah, and for me, it was learning 2 new systems all in one go. Telesouth had just taken us over, and I had started learning a different automation system, and then the video system was kind of maybe I had a week or so with it before we actually went live, and yeah, that was fun.
I saw a great quote this morning on one of the newsletters I have from T.S. Eliot, and it said, "Only those who will risk going." Let me start over. Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. And I think we learned a lot. We had to risk a lot on this show, using a lot of parallel technology so that we can have the social media and the video and the live radio. It's been a great exploration for the two of us. I appreciate your partnership.
You bet.
Okay, we're going to switch gears now and move over. I've had some great conversations with authorities from the Gulfport Biloxi International Airport, and along the way have talked a lot about how the COVID has really kind of changed flying around the world. I had an opportunity back in April of 2020. It's amazing to me now looking back on this, to have Alan Baker, who was a local pilot. We'll remind you here shortly who he is, but we had a great conversation. COVID had just started. There were a lot of unknowns back in those days, and with all that in mind, I invited Alan to join me back to Coast Vue today. He lives in Gulfport. He's an international pilot. We'll remind you how he got to where he is in his life, but we're going to kind of talk about the state of affairs these days in the airline industry. And without any further ado, let me welcome Alan to Coast Vue. How you doing, my friend?
Hi, Ricky. Thanks for having me back. Congratulations on our second anniversary with you.
Well, it's great to have you as the special guest for the second anniversary. When we come back, we're going to really dive in deep to talk about the pandemic and how it's impacted the airline industry. We'll see you after this break.
Subscribe for free to the Coast Vue podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever. I get knocked down, but I get up again. Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
When it comes to the outdoors, we are one. We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the great outdoors. So let's talk about it. Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Mathews. Mondays starting at noon. Here on Super Talk, Mississippi. Presented by the Foundation Protecting Our Outdoors Heritage. Listen or watch the show anywhere you get Super Talk, Mississippi. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Get the news that matters to Mississippi on Middays with Gerard Gibbert. Middays with Gerard Gibbert. Each weekday starting at 10 a.m., Gerard brings you a spirited debate on the key stories of the day with the newsmakers and powerful reporting on the issues you care about. Listen on your local SuperTalk station or anywhere you get SuperTalk Mississippi. And watch the show live on C Spire Channel 70, SuperTalk TV, and on the SuperTalk Mississippi app. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever. I get knocked down, but I get up again. Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. As I mentioned, I had the opportunity back in April of 2020 to talk to Alan Baker. He's quite an accomplished local pilot. He does international flights. We'll talk to you more about how he came to that role and what he does in his real world work. But I thought it'd be interesting to get him back after now 2 years, more than that, into the pandemic. And to see how life has changed and what the state of affairs are these days in the airline industry. But anyway, I appreciate you coming back. And as we mentioned before we went to break, this is the 2-year anniversary of Coast Vue. And what a terrific guest to have as we think about, here's a guy who lives in Gulfport but has flown literally all over the world. It's been a dynamic last couple of years for you, my friend, hasn't it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, looking back, last time we talked, it was right in the ascent phase of COVID, and there was so much fear. I remember that interview, and man, we were all afraid. We weren't sure exactly where this was going, or it was already bad. And man, I was remember kind of decontaminating after coming in from a trip, and like, well, we don't really do that anymore. But fear has kind of given way to frustration, I guess. It's like everybody's long ago been ready for this to be over, and just about the time there's light at the end of the tunnel, it turns out it's another variant. And I mean, if we couldn't laugh about it, where would we be? So that has impacted air travel a lot. There's been a lot of things that sort of just kind of froze into stasis and become standard operating procedures. And people are really tired of the whole masks on airplanes and in airports program. But here we are dealing with it, and hopefully it'll get better as this year progresses.
We've had the benefit of having Dr. Nicholas Conger. He's an infectious disease doctor at Memorial. We've had him on the show countless times. I can't even remember now how many times. I like his views toward things. First of all, he's smart as hell, and to be an infectious disease doctor, he understands what happens with variants as a coronavirus runs its course. Our hope is, and certainly this is the case, at least we believe this is the case with Omicron, that while it may become more infectious, it becomes less deadly. And we'll continue to run, mutations will come and go, and we'll have to continue to learn how to deal with it. But with each mutation, with each variant, there could be a separate set of conditions that we have to be dealing with. In this particular case, we've got Delta that has been deadly, more deadly, obviously. And then we got this proliferation of Omicron, and it's hard. I can understand on the national news front why this is difficult, but they tend to kind of bring them together as one when they talk about COVID generally, and it makes it very, very frustrating. It makes it almost impossible to describe in any kind of simple way. You see that every day, don't you?
We do, and my first question is, what do we do when we run out of the Greek alphabet? It's kind of like hurricane season. We shift from the Roman alphabet and go to Greek to name the storms. What happens with these variants when we get to the end of the Greek alphabet? Whose do we use?
Wow, I get that. Hey, listen, before we talk about the pandemic and how it impacted you, I joked with you off the air, but I really do mean it, that if I were to go fly anywhere in the world, I'd want you as my pilot. And the reason why is because, first of all, you're an engineer, but you've got an incredible number of hours on so many different planes. You've been an emergency actions officer. You've been a flight instructor. Give people a chance to kind of hear your short story on what your training's been like.
Oh my gosh. Started out with just a very powerful curiosity of flying, and that came from my dad, who always wanted to do what I'm doing now. But I've just always wanted to fly. I went to the Air Force Academy, won an appointment there, fairly competitive, for the intent of going to pilot training and being a fighter pilot for the Air Force. Went to pilot training up at Columbus, Mississippi, where a lot of people have been, just east of Starkville, home of Mississippi University for Women. And I was brought back as a flight instructor right off the bat, and that has been sort of a recurring theme throughout my flying career. But following that, I went to work on a wing staff in Upper Hayford, England, and I was working in the command and control division as an emergency actions officer, working with the nuclear codes, the unlock codes, and all the other crypto that went with that, and command and control procedures. Following that, I transferred services to the Navy, which was kind of a politically risky move, but it was getting me where I wanted to go. And I was an instructor again for the Navy down in Kingsville, Texas, on the T2 Buckeye. And out of that, I got orders to fly F-18s, where I spent the rest of my military career. 3 tours, 3 cruises. 2 of them were combat cruises. And when that came to an end, it was in the middle of the big defense drawdown in the mid-90s. And I got an early retirement from the Navy and went to work for United Airlines, and I've been there ever since. I've flown the 727 as a flight engineer. I flew the 777. I was on the initial cadre of flight instructors. Here's this recurring theme again. And brought the 777 out, did that for 4 years, and then went back to line flying. Flown the Airbus 320, the 757, 767, the 777, the 747. I've been a captain on the 737. I just checked out as a 777 captain this past August. So I'm back to long haul international on the airplane that I helped bring out back in the mid 90s.
And those total literally thousands of hours. And then in addition to that, the T-37, the T-8, you mentioned the FA-18, and then of course the TA-4. So you've got a lot of experience. And when we talked last, we went through a long list of things that were happening. You were going through sort of how it was, the beginning steps of COVID. Little did we know that the airline industry would be impacted as much as it was during those days after we talked. Yeah. You were actually down for a while. You can remind me about how long that was. But I remember seeing a picture that you took from the cockpit at somewhere over South America, just beautiful picture over South America. And it hit me that you're back in the air again. But how long was there significant downtime? Remind me about that.
Yes, we call it a COVID holiday. I flew really hard up until the end of April, and then it just stopped. I didn't turn a wheel again until November. And during that time, I was continuing to get paid, which was a real blessing. We didn't know how that was going to work out, but I had this time on my hands, and actually I went, I have an undergraduate degree in civil engineering. And so I've used that from time to time, especially during downturns in the industry. But I got recurrent in civil engineering. I joined the American Society for Civil Engineers and took one of their certification programs, got certified in port engineering, operations, and management. And that kind of rolled in. And actually right now I'm enrolled in an online master's program in civil engineering with Purdue University. I just got my first report card.
Oh, congratulations. How did you do?
I got a 4.0. First shot's the lucky one, right?
Well, look, no, I'm not surprised because, smart people, you heard what I said a few minutes ago, that the more we learn, the more we better learn how much we don't know, that life's a journey of self-discovery. And it's, the more you learn how much you don't, the more humbling it is. And smart people like you just have a tendency to want to constantly reach out and find ways to expand your horizon. And that's been true throughout your flight career. And I'm not surprised that it's also true in your original degree in engineering. Not at all surprised by that. That's just who you are, isn't it?
Well, education is a continuum. At least that's what I'm being told. And, so I pressed the test and it lit up. So feeling very fortunate on that count. But, what do you do? What is retirement? Look at you. You thought you were retired and here you are with your own radio and TV show.
Yeah. Well, again, it's hard. I enjoyed the break, and I'm enjoying retirement, other than the fact that I do this show and then once a week.
Right?
Yeah, Super Talk Outdoors. I forgot, and I've said this many times, I forgot how much I enjoyed connecting. You know what I mean? That was important to me. And, the other thing I forgot is how much I learned as a publisher. And, when I was ready to take a break, and it was great to take the break. But doing the shows reminded me how much I understand how things are connected in the community and what it takes to pull it together. And it's been fun. It's been fun kind of bringing all that together. But you're right. I mean, I think people like us, we never stop trying to, expand our horizons and try to figure out what we're going to do next. Hey, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with international pilot, lives in Gulfport, incidentally. And I want to talk about what the last 2 years has been like. We've got a long list of possibilities we can discuss, but we'll find out from Alan what it's like these days. We'll be back.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
When it comes to the outdoors, we are one. We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the great outdoors. So let's talk about it. Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Mathews. Mondays starting at noon. Here on Super Talk, Mississippi. Presented by the Foundation Protecting Our Outdoors Heritage. Listen or watch the show anywhere you get Super Talk, Mississippi.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever. Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on Super Talk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
These are our friends. These are our neighbors. We all have the power to grow our local economy and energize our community. Shop small businesses and make a difference.
Get the news that matters to Mississippi on Middays with Gerard Gibbert. Middays with Gerard Gibbert. Each weekday starting at 10 a.m., Gerard brings you a spirited debate on the key stories of the day with the newsmakers and powerful reporting on the issues you care about. Listen on your local Super Talk station or anywhere you get Super Talk Mississippi. And watch the show live on C Spire Channel 70, Super Talk TV, and on the Super Talk Mississippi app.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar, in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and all this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
It's interesting, Alan Baker. Welcome back to Coast View. We talked the first time April of 2020, but it's interesting to me that I'm going to ask you what the last 2 years has been like as it relates to being a pilot in the COVID world, and we're also celebrating the 2-year anniversary of Coast View. We had a couple of months of normality, I guess you could call them normality, of Coast View, and then for us, life changed as well. And for the majority of this show's existence, we've had to do it within the guise of the pandemic. But in your world, my goodness, man, lockdowns and quarantines and mandates of all sorts and travel restrictions. And when you look at the international flying requirements, even today, I mean, just so darn dynamic. So how do you sum it up?
If there is a constant in all of that, it is change, especially right now. The rules that have been promulgated by the various countries indicates the kind of diversity or on the ground, the reality of what COVID impacts mean to them in their particular countries. And of course, we have to accommodate that. However, having said that, they are very similar. Most places want you to be masked indoors up to the point where you're eating or drinking. Some places want you to be masked in the streets. Other places, not so much. Some places have had opened up all the way, and if you were vaccinated, you didn't have to be masked at all, or at least that was at your discretion, not a public mandate. And that's been frustrating for a lot of us. But as it pertains to passengers on an airplane, there's no let up to the mask mandate. Of course, everybody's being encouraged to become vaccinated. Some on pain of termination if non-compliant. But as long as passengers are traveling, in the tube, as we say, in the back of the airplane, you got to wear the mask. And that's not my particular preference, but I'm bound by the same rules.
Yeah,
and, we have no flexibility at all. And
I checked this morning, and 8,000 flights, approximately 8,000 flights canceled. I think actually today when we're doing this recording. As of today, 2,609 TSA employees have COVID. I noted that in the notes that we exchanged that there are a lot of unintended consequences of all the actions that have happened. And I would think, if you think about unintended consequences, you think about just public frustration, and I'll let you talk more about sort of the beehive of issues there, but that the airline industries will be the one who sees the most, because you've got so many people that are coming together at the airports, getting on the airplanes, flying around the country. They're the ones who have to sort through what are the situations where I'm flying. In fact, in a second, I want you to tell me where all you fly to internationally, but what are some of the unintended consequences you've seen?
Well, the first one is going to be public frustration in the most general sense. Like we said earlier, it's people are tired of wearing masks, and they're ready to be they're ready for this to be over. And I think people are also tired of being told what to do and chastised if they come to a different conclusion from the official line or what somebody in the media has decided is the correct thing. And I understand that. I really, my heart goes out to them. I like for people to make good decisions, and if it's a bad decision, then have consequences. And we're kind of in that sticky area where one individual's bad decision impacts other people who are innocent, so to speak. But I understand where it intersects my life is in on the airplanes, and we just don't have any flexibility there. Actually, it's easy for me because the rules are so clear, and they are clearly enforced.
One of the conversations I had recently with Dr. Conger, again, the infectious disease doctor from Memorial, is that the CDC is kind of in a bind.
Yes.
Because they want to try to find a one-size-fits-all sort of public statement, and it's hard to take each variant and make it a one-size-fits-all sort of answer. And so what's happened is there's been a distrust of public information that's been disseminated. And what you've seen is a rise in passenger misbehavior, and that in non-compliance, as you pointed out. Have you seen that on your planes?
Not very much. Really, the short answer is no. We've had a couple of people, signal that they didn't like putting their mask on, or they felt somebody was picking on them. But at the end of the day, I haven't had to deal with a non-compliant passenger.
I noticed, when I mentioned 8,000 flight cancellations as of today, when you as a pilot view that, how does that rank with what you normally see? And are you concerned that that's going to be a trend going forward? What's your current thinking around that?
Now, I think there are two causes for that. The first one is most airlines are understaffed. Remember when this happened 2 years ago, there was some quick talk about maybe we can get through this, but most airlines actually started furloughing pilots in order to save those costs so that they can survive. A couple of airlines stood out during that process, and United Airlines is probably the best example. The union and the company management got together and figured out how they could work this without furloughing people. And as this stabilized and has started to come back, United has cleverly positioned itself in a position where they can very maximum flexibility going forward where the flight schedule is concerned. We don't have to retrain large numbers of people in order to bring them up to a currency where they can be scheduled again. That's not the case at all the airlines, and a lot of the cancellations are just because they can't retrain their people, bring them up to currency fast enough to meet the surge in demand.
Alan, just let me say a couple of comments about that. If there is a theme these days when I talk to local businesses, it is the issue of staffing. Inadequate staffing haunts every industry. That's just a reality of where we are, and hopefully things will get better. It's a great opportunity, by the way. A recent Gallup survey indicated that 74% of Americans think this is a great time to find a job, and that's a really good signal. But what I have found, though, is that not every company was in a position like United or some local companies where they can kind of maintain their staff.
No.
But the ones that did had a much easier time of it as it related to ramping back up again. The ones that had to lay people off have had the most difficult time of getting back going again, and still have very significant issues around that. But not every company's in a position where they can do that. I mean, there is the reality of staying viable as an institution, and some financially just can't do that in spite of the federal programs that came down. But the reality, though, and as it relates to the inadequate staffing for United specifically, what I feel from you is essentially a general sense that United has supported pilots quite well.
Yeah, that is without a doubt the truth. And it's if I can throw in, forgive my pride in this, but I think the CEO and the union leadership worked very well together, cooperatively. That process began when we were in somewhat contentious contract negotiations. So those were iced, and we went to deal with the problem at hand, and that's, hey, how do we survive this? But the union agreed to reduce the number of flight hours by a significant amount. So we were actually getting paid less during that time, but we were still getting paid, which is a big deal. 1,000 United pilots, more senior guys, took early retirement, and that took a lot of pressure off of the financial aspect as well, the bleed during that time. And and it was just real cooperative, and everybody got vaccinated. The company incentivized us without coming down, without using the hammer, to force us to get vaccinated. They offered us a financial incentive. Said, look, we'll pay you guys for a whole trip. We'll give you one trip's worth of pay if you'll go get both of those vaccines. And I thought that was a lot better than pulling out the whip or bringing down the hammer.
Alan, we're coming to the end of this segment, but real quick, give me an idea of some of the countries you fly to.
Since I've been on the 777, been to Italy, India, Brazil, Hawaii. Getting ready to go to hopefully Britain soon once they unlock. That was kind of a surprise.
So what this means is that Alan's in a great position to give travel advice. When we come back, I want to know what kind of advice you give a friend when they think about doing international travel. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Alan Baker.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
You know that nowadays, most people go online to look at a business before they spend their money. Are customers able to find you online? With the power of SuperTalk Mississippi Media Digital, you can reach potential customers and get more referral and repeat business. SuperTalk Mississippi Media Digital's highly trained and trusted staff is ready to work with you to help your business capitalize on the power of digital marketing. Call 601-991-2305 or go to stmmdigital.com to get started today.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
SuperTalk Mississippi. Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Whether you're brand new to the DIY craze or a seasoned veteran, the Handyman Show has something for you. Buddy Slowick shares tips and tricks on everything from odd jobs to complete build-outs, from small home repairs to serious construction. So no matter if you're at the master carpenter level or not quite sure how to use a level, The Handyman Show answers your questions with a healthy dose of humor and some great music, too. Saturdays, 10 to noon on SuperTalk Mississippi and on SuperTalk TV.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Del Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera slips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
When it comes to the outdoors, we are one. We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the great outdoors. So let's talk about it. Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Mathews, Mondays starting at noon, here on Super Talk Mississippi. Presented by the Foundation Protecting Our Outdoors Heritage. Listen or watch the show anywhere you get Super Talk Mississippi. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. I'm honored to have here on the 2-year anniversary of Coast View, Alan Baker, an international pilot who lives in Gulfport. And you know what? I refer to people like you, Alan, as an ambassador. You represent coastal Mississippi. You represent Mississippi to the world. Literally, in your case, you literally represent us to the world. And we appreciate the work that you do to help people have good feelings about this wonderful place that we live in. One of the things that's interesting about what you do is you get a chance in all of your travel to stay at all these different hotels, and you get to see what all the challenges are and how they vary from one country to the next and all that. So when a friend of you asks you for travel advice, what do you say to them? And this is specifically usually international travel, but what do you say to them?
My first advice is to pay attention. Things are changing so quickly right now. You have got, if you're going to get on an airplane and go to another country and clear customs and be subject to the rules and the laws and the customs of that place, you need to pay attention to what those are. You need to learn before you go. And as those rules are changing, you have to flex with them. Not every source of information is reliable, as we have learned here. So I recommend that people check first with the United States sources, the CDC and the U.S. State Department, for any restrictions that they have or warnings. They're full of advice, and they try to keep the most current warnings about changing restrictions, and I steer people to those. But also the countries that they go to visit, most of them maintain websites with their latest information. And finally, keep in touch with your airline. As you board, as you check in and then board, your cell phone app should have a whole list of information and again, updates for your travel. Beyond that, I would recommend strongly that people stay away from third-party booking sites, discount sites. I'm not going to name their names, but we all know what they are. And that's not because I'm against the concept of that. It's just that those will leave you vulnerable, can leave you vulnerable, especially if things about your flight change. If it's delayed or canceled, those people are the last ones to rebook. If the flight is restricted or delayed and they have to deboard, deplane passengers, the first ones to get off will be the ones from those that booked through those sites. So, this is not a time to save a few bucks on your round trip fare to whatever country. Protect yourself by paying the full fare, and you'll if something happens, you'll be ahead of the ones that that paid a few bucks, that saved a few bucks. And I would generally extend that to hotels and car rentals and cruise lines and things like that, at least for the time being, until things stabilize out a little bit.
Yeah, one of the things that I see, and we're beginning to hear more about this, someone leaves the U.S. COVID-free, they go to wherever they're going, they contract COVID, and now they're stuck because they can't fly back with COVID. So they should really have a backup plan. I mean, they should really understand what happens if they get COVID. And some of them are forced into hotels that are COVID hotels, and some of them, each country has a different approach, but that's kind of a scary scenario if you're not aware of what that might be.
Well, it happens to crew members too. I've got a friend right now locked down in Denver, Colorado, who thought he was there for a fairly short overnight. Woke up in the middle of the night with COVID symptoms, got worse as the dawn approached. And they not only, of course, pulled him right off of that flight and stuck him in, a longer term hotel downtown, but they also pulled his first officer off of the trip and stuck him in quarantine. And several of the flight attendants that were on their crew also went into quarantine. So it's not just passengers that are, feeling the impact of this. That kind of leads me to, last point here is, man, if you're going to travel, you should expect some frustrations. And, it could be anything. Everybody's kind of in a cranky mood right now. And don't play into somebody else's meltdown. If you see somebody misbehaving or non-compliant, man, let them do what they're going to do, but don't get sucked into that.
Well, you said it best. If you're in a bad mood, you probably ought not travel.
That's right.
Take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. Recognize that the conditions are constantly changing. No one, the employees on the other side or the travelers, I don't think anyone wants your travel to be frustrating, but there are going to be people around you who are going to be frustrated that come to the airport in a volatile mood. But as you're pointing out, don't play into their volatile mood. Just keep your cool. Enjoy the opportunity you have to still travel. Just follow the rules and try to take a deep breath and get through it as best you can. But we're out of time now. Alan, it's been a pleasure to visit with you, my friend.
My pleasure.
This has been International Pilot from Gulfport, Alan Baker, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks very much.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.
Hey.